Kakalosh Boker or Masechet Bava Metzia Daf Bava Metzia Daf 106A1. Says the Gemara, we were speaking about that if somebody right now had a field, and what happened was that there was a Makat Medina. What does it mean, Makat Medina? The entire surroundings, right, got, whether it was eaten by the grasshoppers, right, whether it was going to be that it was all hit by dryness or by the wind, whichever one that it was. So says the Gemara, what happens in a case, right, where you stayed behind one furrow, right, or aspasta, which is basically zera, which is fitting for machal behema. What's halacha? So says the Gemara, zera acher. Another question, zera acher. What is exactly zera acher? Mai. It says chite legabe sorim zera acher dami. Is it considered wheat to barley also like a zera acher or not? And then we ask, what happens if kol haolam kulo b'shidafon? And this is going to be b'yirakon. You remember the shidafon was because of the wind, and the yirakon was because of the dryness, right? Or the entire world was yirakon, and his was shidafon, teiku. And this is where we stopped yesterday with this teiku that we did not have the answer. So we are right now 4 lines down, right? 4 lines down where it says Amar Le. Okay, so let's start. Amar Le. So the Baal HaSadeh comes and he tells the choker, Zare'a chite ve'azal hu uzra'a sa'areh. Imagine right now, they made an agreement between them that he's going to plant wheat. Now, instead of planting wheat, he planted barley. And now, ishtaduf ruba debaga, right? The majority of the fields in the valley were, how do you call this? Nishtadfu, okay? Which means, right, that the ruach came and it got rid of the majority of it. So all the wind came and got rid of the majority of it. So also the barley was ruined. Mai, what's halacha? Mi amrina, are we going to say Elmaleh that he could tell him ilu zarat chite havenami nishtadfa, that if it would have been chitim, it would have been right the same. Or Dilmar, maybe Matzi Elmaleh, he could tell him ilu zarat chite have mekayem bi betigzar omer v'yakum lach. If be'emet you would have done the chitim, so it would have been mitkayem, the pasuk, that anything that I'm going to ask from Hashem, right, it would have, Hashem would have saved me. What does that mean, right? I only asked at the beginning of the year, right, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should come and give me, right, that tzlacha, and that which I told you, which was going to be the chitim, right, not in the seorim. So therefore, if you would have done the chitim, it could have been that I would have had a tzlacha. Because if you wouldn't have changed, I prayed that my wheat should have a lot of atzlacha. All of a sudden you came and you changed it to barley. So even though you're right, it was a makat medina, meaning that in that place, it wasn't just my field. And then you could say, listen, it's your mazal. It was all the fields there. Yeah, but I prayed for a wheat, not for barley. So maybe Bemet, I could tell you, listen, yeah? So answers the Gemara, Nistabra de Elmaleh izarata chite have mekayem bi v'tigzar omer v'yakum lach ve'al dirachecha nagahot. What does that mean? He says it would have been mistaber to actually tell him, listen, if you would have actually done the chitim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have listened to my tefillah. And then what? And then we would have had atzlacha. And then even if all the other ones would have gone bad, sour, my field would have been okay. So that's what you could probably tell him. Okay. So the Gemara is telling you that mistabra, you have it. Mamash, it's like a svara. Okay? Another question. Nishtadfu kol sedotav shel machkir. What happens if all the fields of the machkir, right, became destroyed because of also the same thing, because of the wind? Right? So this one also was part of it. So all of them had that. Right? Velo ishtaduf ruba debaga. But he says, but it wasn't the majority of the fields, right? So he says, what happens now? Velo ishtaduf. Mai, what's halacha? Because here you have all the properties, right, of the choker, but you don't have the majority, right, of the ones which happen here in this valley. So lo menakele. Do we say that he cannot take it down? Or dilmar, maybe Kevin ishtaduf kulu arata. Since everything happened by him, Matzi Elmaleh, you could say, It's because of him. Because it's going to be, right, all of the sadot. Yeah? You want to pass it down? There you go. Okay? You have all of the sadot. So therefore, all of your fields had that. So therefore, even if it's not going to be Mekah Medina, right, you could still come take it down or not. Right? Remember, it wasn't the one that was renting it. It was the one that was renting it out. Okay, that means the owner of the field. So this guy has a bad mazal that all his fields, right, got destroyed. So now the choker, he could come and say, listen, right, even if it wasn't all the ones in the valley, it's your mazal. So therefore, I should deduct from the money that I have to pay you, because look what's going on. So says the Gemara, mistabra da'amale, it's mistaber that he could tell him, if it's because of mine, have a mishtai lipurta, right? There should have been a little bit that would have been left over. It says in pasuk, ki nish'arnu me'at me'arbeh. Midatot shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu is lerachem ala ben adam, not to continue, not to take away everything, yeah, but to leave a little bit. In Spanish, this is a concept called Dios aprieta pero no ahorca. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he tightens, but he doesn't choke. Yeah, he tightens, but he doesn't choke. What does that mean? Right? That means that here, even if, okay, it was because of him, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu wouldn't have finished them off. He would have taken everything. He would have come and he would have done, okay, fine, you'll do a little bit. Yeah, fine, but not more than that. Okay? He would have left them with something. And the fact that nothing was left had nothing to do with me, had to do with you. Okay? Next doubt. Nishtadfu kol sadotav shel choker. The other way around now. It's not the fields of the balabait that all of them got destroyed. It's the fields of the choker. The choker is the guy that's taking over the land. Okay, and he has to pay his rent. Vishtaduf ruba de baga. Now also the majority of the fields in that valley got destroyed also. So this one also. What's halacha? We say, since it's the majority, he could deduce it. Why? Because listen, it's a mazal of the entire Makkah Medina. So you could take it down. It's of everybody. Well, Dilmar, maybe, since it's all of his fields, he could tell him, listen, it's because of you. Look, all your fields happen. Look at all your fields. So answers the Gemara. Here, mistabra damale mishum letach hu. He could actually tell him it's because of you. So 1 second. Says the Gemara, why when it was the maskin, meaning the one that's renting it out, we don't say that it's all because of you. Right? Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he doesn't choke. He doesn't do everything. He always leaves something behind. And here we don't say that. Amai hachanami neimale. Answers the Gemara, Mishum Damale, because he could answer, Ihava chasit lishtuyo lachmide, haval mishtai lachmide nafshach. If Hashem would have left something over, he would have left something over that was shayach to you. To the owner. This guy's a choker. A choker means that it's not his. One more time. I come, right? What's the case? I'm the one that's working the land for you. You're the owner of the land. I'm the choker. All my fields went off. So therefore we say, since all my fields went off, but it was also all the fields in the vicinity. So I want to come and I want to tell you, listen, David, I apologize. I'm taking down from the rent. Why? Makkah Medina. You come and you tell me, no, it's because of you. What's the proof? All your fields. So we asked the question, 1 second, when we wanted to do that vice versa, right? We couldn't do that. Why? Because I would have said it would have been left over a little bit. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not choke. He tightens. He doesn't choke. Answers the Gemara. So why don't we say the same thing here? Say the exact same thing. He answers him back. If Hashem wants to leave you over something, he's going to leave you over something which is your own personal, not mine. Meaning here, it belongs to you. So what's my ta'ana? Hashem would have left me over something. He would have left me over something personal, not this field. So the fact that this field also got destroyed, so therefore it's leta didach. It's because of me. It's because of all my fields. Which one? Yeah. So Meteve, ask the question, right? The Gemara is going to ask the following question from a writer. Hayeta shanat shidafon v'yirakon. Imagine right now, right? One of the 2 years of the first beginning years that you sold a field, okay? He says was Shinat Shidafon Virakon. It means or. Remember, Yirakon just means that a guy gets dried up, and the Shidafon is because of the Ruach, right? Because of the wind. Or Shavit or Shemitah. Or Shayu Shanim Kishne Eliyahu. Or it was years like Eliyahu Navi. Tamamash, it was basically years of Batzoret. And Olelo Minaminyan. So it does not count as part of the first 2 years. Which one? Ah, very good. Yeah, no, really no do. So he says, right, it's not going to count for the first 2 years that you could come and you could redeem a field that you sold. So therefore, because basically, right, when you're going to come, you're going to sell a sedeh achuzah, right? A sedeh achuzah is basically a property that you inherited from your forefathers going back to the time of Yoshua bin Nun. So if you're going to come and you're going to sell it, so it comes and it says, right, we know B'Shnata Yovel it goes back. So he says, even in the Shnata Yovel, you're allowed to come and you're allowed to redeem it. He says, but it has to pass by 2 years at least from the sale. So now, if one of those 2 years was a Shnat Shidafon, Yerakon, or Shemitah, or like Eliyahu Navi, it doesn't count. You have to wait 2 years, and then you can redeem it.
The time didn't start.
Yes. Okay. Katan, right? We learned Shidafon v'Yerakon, Dunya the Shanim Kishne Eliyahu. So we put everything in the same pot, as they say. Meaning we put Eliyahu Navi, right, with Shidafon v'Yerakon and Shemitah, all of them together. Just like Shene Eliyahu, there was no tivua whatsoever. Afachanami, so to here, lo avi tivua klal. There's no tivua whatsoever. Aval, however, though, dika tivua. What happens if there was some tivua? Do something. Yeah, something. Salkale, right? It does count for him as part of the 2 years. Velo kamnina, we don't say makamidinahi. Meaning, imagine right now you have 2 years to eat from the field, right? And I'm going to tell you, listen, I was only able to get 10% of the field, of the fruits. Only 10%. So you're going to tell me, does it count or not count? So I'm going to tell you, listen, it was Makkah Medina, it doesn't count. It says the Gemara does count. Why? Because if it's comparing Shidafon and Yirakon to Eliyahu, during the time of Eliyahu, there was nothing. So therefore, if there's nothing in Acharami, it doesn't count. But the second that there's something, it does count. So Amr Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Shane Hatam, it's different over there. Damakab, as the pasuk says, "B'mispar shene tevuot im kolach shanim sheyesh bahen tevuah ba'olam." We're talking about any time that there's going to be tevuah, that's already enough. So therefore, as long as it's tevuah, even in other places, it counts as part of the 2 years. To do with chakira, right? We need what? If everyone please, yeah, again, to do with chakira, we need that the field should be fitting to take out tevuah. And therefore, since with it was all the other ones, so the shidafon is makam medina, and therefore it's not a field which is fitting for tevuah. But to do the pasuk, since the pasuk says shanim sheyesh bahem tevuah, meaning b'mispar shenet tevuot im kolach, even if you didn't have it, as long as there's grain in other parts in the world, that's already enough. It's already enough. So the Gemara comes and asks, meaning we're learning it from a pasuk, right? It all depends on the pasuk. The pasuk says, and therefore it means that when there is going to be tevuah, so then that's it. So Elmaleh Ravashi Rav Kahana, Ravashi comes and he asks Rav Kahana, Ela me'ata, we're going to ask the following question, Shevi'it, Shemitah, Talelo minyan. 1 second. It should count for you. Why? Ta'ika tevuah b'chutzaretz. You have chutzaretz. Meaning, one more time, if you're going to tell me now that it's based upon the pasuk, at the beginning we didn't have this pasuk. So we thought if you have produce, you have produce. You don't have produce, you don't have produce. Now the Torah is telling you, no, since it's written in the pasuk, b'mispar shenet tevuot im kolach, right, which means that according to the number of years that you have tevuah, so therefore it's years that you have tevuah in the world in general. So therefore, even though you do not have produce, but the fact that there is produce around, it does help. So I'm going to ask 1 second. Let's go back to the Braita. The Braita says, Shenat Shidafon, Yirakon, Shevi'it, which is Shemitah, and then you have Shnot Eliyahu. So now 1 second. Shemitah is in Eretz Yisrael, not on Chutzaretz. So if Shemitah is in Eretz Yisrael and not in Chutz Haaretz, so therefore he comes and he says, so why doesn't it count? If you're telling me that you're comparing it to Eliyahu Navi, that means that you have nothing, right? And if you do have something, it does count. So Shemitah, it should count. Why should it count? Because you do have in Chutz Haaretz, not here, not in Israel, fine, but you have in Chutz Haaretz. So just like you have in Chutz Haaretz, and it should count, so 2 years should count. Elmaleh comes and he says, Shevi'it afkata de malka he. Says no. He says, Akadosh Baruch Hu was the one that annulled it. So ever since Akadosh Baruch Hu was the one that says that you're not allowed to plant on Shemitah, it's Ke'ilu that it's not here. And therefore Ke'ilu the field is not here. And since Ke'ilu the field is not here, that's why, right, it doesn't count as the 2 years. Meaning, in a regular case, the field is here. It's only Makam Medina, and other things. Here, it's a special case because since Hakadosh Baruch Hu says that you're not allowed to work on the land, you're not allowed to do anything on the land, it's kinu that the land is not here. The land is not here, you get an extra year. That's all that the Torah is actually saying. One second. Yeah? So, Elmaleh Morzutra Be'edere de Ramari de Ravina says, 1 second, if you're going to come now and tell me this is sold, right? So, 1 second. Ela me'ata, now we're going to ask the following question. Shevit lo talem lo mina gerua. So therefore it shouldn't count from taking away from the years as well. Meaning the Torah comes and it tells you, right, that you're going to come and you're going to take away from Ekdesh at the beginning of the Yovel. And then, right, so you're going to give 50 shekel kesef, right, for every single bet kul. Now, if you're going to redeem it, you go according to the years. So now what? Are you going to take away down according to the years? So that means, 1 second, if Shevit is not considered, so therefore that's it. So you should take off the kilu that is not even counted then. That means basically what you're doing is you're going to say, okay, how many years is there left? 20? Yeah, but there's three Shemitahs. So take off the 3 Shemitahs. Alama Tnan. So why do we learn in the Mishnah and Erechin? Noten sela upinyon lechol shana. You're going to give a sela and pinyon for every single year, which obviously includes Shemitah as well. So answers the Gemara. Elmaleh, he answers him. Ravina answers him. Shana Atom, it's different. At the end of the day, during the time, the year of the Shemitah, you could still put out fruits to dry. So therefore, when you're redeeming a steach chuzah from Ekdesh, it doesn't say shenet tavuot, right? As long as you could still use the field, it still counts, right? But to do the steach chuzah that's sold, it's written shenet tavuot in kolach. So one more time, let's go outside. Let's understand. There's something which is called Sedeh Chuzah, and there is something which is called, right, a field which is belonging to Ekdesh, right? Sedeh Ekdesh, right? So he says like this. He comes and he says like this. When you're going to come and you're going to redeem a field, right, which is going to be a Sedeh Chuzah, there it's written in the pasuk Shenet Tivot in Kolach, and since it's written Shenet Tivot in Kolach, everything has to do with, right, the concept that there's still going to be produce in other places in the world. By the Hekdesh, it's not written that. And since by Hekdesh, if you're going to redeem it from Hekdesh, since by Hekdesh it's not written that, we go after the usage of the field. Right now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says you cannot use the field. It's Hekdesh. It's Shemitah. To do with the Shemitah, it's considered that you're not allowed, so therefore I'm going to take it away from the count of the Sedeh Chuzah, because it's Keilu, I didn't do anything with the field. But to do with Ekdesh, the fact with that, it's not written Shenet Tavot in Kolach, and during the years of Shemitah, I could still use the field. I can't plow in it, I can't plant in it, but I could use it. How am I going to use it? I'm going to dry fruits in it. I take fruits, and I put them, and I spread them on my field, and I'm coming and I'm drying them. So therefore, since there's still a purpose, right, of the field, meaning I could still use the field, I could deduct it from the amounts of the years. Meaning the concept of Shenet Tivot is only written by Sedeh Chuzah and not written by Hekdesh. And therefore I do not apply the same rules one to another. Hekdesh is one thing, Sedeh Chuzah is something else. By Sedeh Chuzah, it has to be that I need fruits. Here you can have fruits. Since you can have fruits, it's kilo, it's not here. If it's not here, so therefore I still need another year. I need 2 years. So therefore you get another year. By the Sedeh Gdesh has nothing to do with the fruits, because it doesn't say Shnei Tevot in Kolach. It just says, right, that you're using the field. I'm allowed to use, it's my field. Nobody could take away the usage of the field from me. During Shemitah, the only thing is, I'm not allowed to plant. I'm not allowed to plow. Anybody could come and take from Hefker 100%. But it's my field. Nobody could come and say, you know what, I'm going to use your field to set up my tent. And I'm going to live in your field. Sorry, doesn't exist. So therefore, since it does not exist, right, it does not count such a concept. Therefore, I'm going to deduce it from the rent. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel comes and he says, Lo shanu, what are we talking about? We're talking about where you planted it. It sprouted forth. V'achalach agav, and a grasshopper came and ate it. Avalo zera klal, but if you didn't plant it at all, lo, right? You cannot reduce from the chakirut, even though it was makat medina. Meaning, when can you reduce the value? Right? Only if it's going to be a makat medina and you plant it. But if you didn't plant, right? There's no, right? There's no, you can't do anything. Why? I said, I'm sorry, you didn't plant. The Elmaleh was, he could have told him, if you would have planted it, what does that mean? Sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give you bracha, even in a time of drought, even in a time of things. So therefore, if you would have planted it, then you would have gotten, right, the bracha. Okay? Remember that what's happening here is that at the end of the day, it's always connected to the balabait. The reason why it's always connected to the balabait is because he has to pay the balabait. He's going to pay him, right, according to the produce. And therefore, if right now what's going to happen is he comes and he says, listen, there's no produce, so I want to reduce the rent. It's kilu, listen, your field is worth nothing. I have to reduce the rent. It's not like a regular concept of money. Remember, when we spoke about money, you have to pay me rent for the house, right? 1 second, yeah? When we're talking about, right, rent on the house. So whenever we're talking about rent on a house, I don't care what happens. You have to pay me $500. That's rent. Here, it's because of the produce. So again, I'm not giving you the produce as that's my salary, and really, Bemet, you own the land, you own everything, and it's only just, that's a sharecropper. A sharecropper is, and listen, I just come, it's your field. It's not rented to me, nothing to do with nothing. I just work the field, and instead of giving me a salary of $20,000 a year, I take half the fruit, or I take a third of the fruit, or I take a quarter of the fruit. That is called a sharecropper. Here it's a choker. It's a little bit different. But the choker in itself that we're talking about, right? He's coming, he's saying, listen, the guy comes and he tells the choker, if you would have be'emet planted, Hashem would have given me the bracha. You would have been able to give me the rent. Why? Because at the end of the day, Hashem would have given me the bracha. You didn't plant at all. So even though there's a Mekah Medina, it's your fault. It's your fault. Why? You didn't plant. So Mati Rav Sheshat asks, Ro'eh, Shaya Ro'eh, V'iniach Edro Uvalaid. Imagine right now you have a shepherd, and the shepherd leaves his flock, and he comes to the city. Comes a wolf, and he takes one of the animals. Ubari, Vedaras, and comes a lion and takes one of the animals. And omrim, we don't say ilu haya sham haya matzil. We don't say if he was there, he would have saved it. Elomdin oto im yachol latzil. We evaluate, can he save it? So he would have been chayav. And if not, he's going to be patur. So says the Gemara, why? Why is it going to be patur? Namely, we should tell him. If he would have been there, he would have been in the pasuk. This is talking about David HaMelech. The David HaMelech, he hit the lion and the bear. So therefore, meaning he might have been able to save them. So answers the Gemara, Mishum da Amarle, he comes and he says, if already we were fitting to have a miracle happen to you, they would have had a miracle like Chanina Mendoza. That the Izim brought the Dovim in their kerens. Meaning, even if he wasn't there, even if he wasn't there at all, it would have already done the miracle. And since it would have been done the miracle, that's why he comes and he says, right, that he could still come and say, listen, if we evaluate, could he have been there, could he have saved something or not? So ask the Gemara, so what do we say? Nehi de lenisa rabba lo ava chazina, lenisa zuta chazina, right? Kuvava mubet. He says, okay, fine. He could have told him, listen, I'm not expecting a bigness, or maybe a smallness. Meaning there, it was an incredible miracle. The goats were bringing bears in their horns. Meaning instead of the bear killing the goat killed the bear, and the bears and the goats were coming in with the bears on their horn. That was a huge miracle. That was Rav Chanina Mendoza. Huh? Dube. A dove is a bear. No, beforehand, because before we were talking about a wolf and a lion. No, before we were talking about a wolf and a lion. Rav Chanina Mendoza, yeah.
It's a dove.
A dove? What's a dove? A bear. Oh, okay, no, the wolf is before, where it says right before where it says Bazev. Zev is the wolf. Okay. So answer the Gemara. Kasha, it's a good question. You asked a beautiful question. Okay, next. Tani Chada. Right, we also learned to do with another concept to do with the Chakira to the Sadeh. Pam Rishona Shniya Zoria. The first time and the second time, right? What happens if you came and you planted it, right? And again, came the Chagav, the grasshoppers, they took over the entire field. Or Nishtefa. So you have to do it a second time around. But if it's a third time around, you don't have to do it again. Meaning, you have to try a few times. If you tried the first time and then came the grasshoppers, second time and then it came, but you can't just say, listen, I tried once, it didn't work, Kaddish. No. You have to try again and again and again. The third time you don't have to do it. Right? The third time you don't have to do it. Huh? Two times, yes. That's chazakah. Tanya Idach, then he brings down the price. Tanya Idach, then we come and we send out the Braita. 3 times you have to plant. The wheat, no. Again, this is a machloket. What is a chazakah? No, it's either 2 or 3. We're going to see here. Says the Gemara like a chest on a question. Ha, Rabbi, this is a shita of Rabbi. Ha, Rashbag. And this is a shita of Rashbag. Ha, Rabbi, this one is going like Rabbi Damar, but it says 2 times it's going to be a chazakah. Which means that once it already happens twice, it's already be considered a chazakah. And this is shitat Rashbag, that we say 3 times is considered a chazakah. Okay? 1 minute. Amar Reshakish. Yeah? It's a different shiur. Says Reshakish. Lo shanu. What are we talking about here? Ela shezra'a v'tzamcha v'achala chagav. What are we talking about? We're talking about over here where a person came and they planted and it sprouted and it was eaten by a chagav. Aval zra'a v'lo tzamcha. He says, but if it was going to be planted and it didn't sprout forth, matzi Elmaleh could tell him balakarka kol yemei zera zra'ala ve'azil. And the entire time you have to continue going. Why? Because maybe it didn't come in the time of the zriya. Meaning, beforehand we were talking about that there was a force majeure that happened outside. You planted, came grasshoppers. You planted, came the ruach, right? The phone. You planted, fine. But what happens if you planted and it never grew? There was no grasshoppers. So you could continue telling him, continue planting. Why? Maybe it wasn't the time of the planting yet. Yeah? You continue going the entire time of the zriya. So says the Gemara, ve'ademat, until when? Rav Papa says, adeatu arise midabra. He says, until the ona, which the arisim are coming back from their houses. He says it's a sha'a sirit. Ve'kaima kima reshayhu. And the kochav kim'a is found in the middle on top of their heads. Which means here that it's until the month of Adar. Yeah, until the month of Adar. So you tell him, continue going. And he has to continue planting and planting and planting until the month of Adar. So ask the Gemara, Meitavei, so they're going to ask the following question. Rashbag mishum Rabbi Meir omer. Rashbag says the name of Meir. And so too Rabbi Menasya says like him, Chetzi Tishri Mar Cheshvan Chetzi Kislev, right? Zera. He says, do you know that you have half the month of Tishri, Mar Cheshvan, and half the month of Kislev is the time for planting. Chetzi Kislev, Tevet, the Chetzi Shvat, Choref. Half the month of Kislev, full month of Tevet, and half the month of Shvat is considered the winter. Okay? Chetzi Shvat, Adar, the Chetzi Nisan, Kor. He says the half the month of Shvat, Adar, and the half of the month of Nisan is considered Kor, which means the end of the winter. Chetzi Nisan, Iyar, Chetzi Sivan, Katzir. Half the month of Nisan, Iyar, and half the month of Sivan is considered the reaping time, which is the beginning of the summer. Chetzi Sivan Tammuz Chetzi Av Kait. Half the month of Sivan, Tammuz, and half the month of Av is considered the summertime. Chetzi Av Elul v'Chetzi Tishrei Chom. Half the month of Av, Elul, and half the month of Tishrei is the end of the summer, so therefore it's considered Chom. Rabbi Yehuda Moneh mitishri, right? But Rabbi Yehuda, he actually counts the onot starting from Tishri, meaning that it's like 2 months, 2 full months, right? Is for each, meaning we did half a month, full month, half a month, right? Half a month, full month, half a month, half a month, full month, half a month, half a month. Full. Now again, we call them different concepts, meaning instead of calling it spring, we called the time of Pesach. You know, like each one had a different name. Okay, so we started with Zera. After Zera, we had Choref. After Choref, we had Kor. After Kor, we had Katzir. After the Katzir, right, we had the how do you call it? Kait. And after Kait, you had Chom. Okay, now here he comes and he says as follows. He says, how do we do it? We did it half a month, full month, half a month, half a month, full month, half a month. He says, no, 2 full months and a half a month. 2 full months, half a month. 2 full months, half. You understood? That's how you're doing it. So instead of doing it a half, full, half, it's 2 full, 1 half. 2 full, 1 half, 2 full, 1 half. That's all you're doing. So says the Gemara, Man mekel bekulu. Who's the one that's mekel from all of them? So he says Rabbi Shimon. It's Rabbi Shimon. Right? Because he's counting the onot from Mar Cheshvan. And therefore it comes out that the tkufot, he's saying that the tkufot, the kule haylo kama. And even according to him, he's saying, according to him, that Tkufat Zera is not going to continue that much until the end of Kislev. So says the Gemara, La Kashya, it's not a question. Had the kable mine bechorpe, the had the kable mine beafle. Which means it all depends when did you receive the field. If you received the field, right, and that's what we're saying over here. The one that says that it goes until Kislev is when you receive the field, right, at the beginning of the Choref. Okay, so therefore, right, you're able to. But if you only received it, right, that's what he says over here, right, the kabla mine be'afle. So he comes and he says, so therefore, in order to have until Adar, so therefore it's going to be seorim and kitniot. So it all depends when did you get the afle is the end of the time of the crop. Meaning it all depends when you're getting the field at the beginning or the end. What you could plant in it. If you're getting it at the beginning, you could get chitin, chiffon, and all these things. If you're getting it at the end, obviously you can't do those things. You can only do the other things, which is much quicker and much easier to plant. Next, Rabbi Yehuda says, "Im kibla mimenu memaot." If he's doing it only in money, so he says, "Hau gavra de kabilara mizre beutume." There was somebody that he came and he accepted a field in order to plant in it shum, garlic. Aguda de nahar malka sava bezuze. Right, and now the field was on the riverbanks, right, of the Nahar Malka, right, Saba, that was the name of the river. Bezuze, in order to pay a zuz, okay, Istakar Nahar Malka Saba. All of a sudden it stopped. The dam stopped. He came in front of Rava, and he told him, Nahar Malka Saba lo evi de miskar. He says, it's not meant to happen. Makam Medina, it's Makam Medina. Zil nakale, go take down from the money. So Amru le Rabbanan le Rava says the rabbis to Rava, hey, what's going on over here? Yeah? What's going on? Hanan Tran, we already learned it. Yeah, we already learned it. So he says, why do we already learn it? Whenever it's money, right, you're never going to come and you're not going to, how do you call this? You're never going to deduct it. So therefore, if you're never going to deduct it, so therefore, what are you talking about now? Because it's Makam Medina. I don't care if it's Makam Medina. You're paying money. Money, you never deduct. Okay, by the way, just if you realize in the footnote over there, right, when we're talking about the different months and the onot, you have all the different mazalot of all the different months, right, of what it is. So Amar Lehu, so comes Rav and he says, let's dechash Rabbi Yehuda. Nobody's choshesh to the shita of Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore, even if you accepted it with money, right, or you accepted it for produce, you could still deduct it if it's Makam Medina, which means Makam Medina, you could still deduct. That's how the Gemara is fasting, not like the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda came in the Mishnah and said that if you were paying money, I don't care what's going to happen. You always have to pay the money. Says the Gemara, we don't go like Rabbi Yehuda. And since we don't go like Rabbi Yehuda, in this case, he was going to pay money. But the water got stopped, and now he wasn't able to plant anything. So now he wants to deduct from the rent, right? Says the Gemara, he's allowed to. Rabbi Yehuda said in the Mishnah that if you're paying money, you can't deduct. We don't pass like Rabbi Yehuda. Okay? I can't hear you. Mishnah, Kuvav Mubet, 106b, says the Mishnah. Hamkabel sadeh mechavero ba'asara kur chitim l'shana. If somebody is going to receive a field for 10 kur chitim for a year, because that's the value of the chakirut. Vilakta. Now what happens? Right? It's going to come and it's going to be a hit. So again, you have shedufot, kechushot, all these things, right? So what happens? Noten lo mitocha. Right, he has to come and he has to give from the tevuah which was growing. If they were nice ones, you shouldn't tell them, I'm going to take from the shuk. He has to take from the good ones in the field. Okay, so he has to give it. Remember, the chakirut many times was done because it's also like it's a type of a risk, right? Because, for example, a sharecropper, if the field produces 100 and I was 50-50, so I have to give him 50. If it's chakirut and I only have to pay him 30, and now it produced 100 because I overworked it, so technically I could come and say, I only have to pay him the 30. It all depends what I have to pay him. The chakirut was always a different form of doing it. But remember, in all these mishnayot, it's either chakirut or arisut. It's never both. Okay? So says the Gemara, how gavra the kabilara la spasta. There was somebody that he received the field and he was going to use it as a spasta. Remember, a spasta is when it only grows a third, and it's going to be from Hechal of the human beings, right? Bechore of the animals, sorry. Bechore de sare, we're talking about the bikorim of seorim, that you're going to come, right? Kur of the seorim, avda spasta is going to come out of the spasta, b'charasha, right? And after when you're going to plow it, uzara sare velaku hanu sare. Then what did he do? He came, he planted barley, and then it was hit. So Shalcha Rav Chaviva mi Surah de Prat lekamed Ravina. So Rav Chaviva from Surah de Prat came and he sent it for the Ravina. Ki aigav namai. What's the halacha in such a case? Tilakta noten lo mitocha dami. When it gets hit, he has to give it from the field, or not. So Elmaleh, he says, midami. Can you compare those cases? Hatam over there lo avda arash shlichuta demara. The field did not do the shlichut because since it was weakened, so it didn't do the shlichut. Hacha over here, avda, you did it. Meaning you first grew the animal food. And then you took it down and you wanted to grow something else. And then it was lakta. So you can't deduct anything. The field already did its job. Another similar case. There was somebody that he came and he accepted a pardes from his friend. Right? In order to pay 10 barrels of wine. Became vinegar. That's our Mishnah. Right? Lakta, if it got hit, he's going to have to give it. Ravashi says, midami, can you compare both cases? Hatam over there, lo avda ara shlichuta. Right? The field did not do the shlichut. Hacha over here, avda ara shlichuta. It did do the shlichut. And therefore, since it did do the shlichut, right, that's why obviously it's going to be different. Ravashi is going to be modeh, the inve de kadom, uvesadeh shelakta beomrea. We're talking about inve, anavim, right, of kadom, right, which means after you came and you already reaped it, right? That's what we're talking about, the grapes after you reaped it, and then a sadeh that it was already going to be hit, right, when it's going to be with the stalks, and therefore, since you still need the karka, we're going to say that it was in the field and not in the mazal of the person that's renting out the field. Last Mishnah on the page, okay? Kuvav Mubet on the bottom. Hamkabel sadeh mechavero. If someone is going to receive a field from his friend, Lezara seorim, in order to plant it, seorim. Lo yizrenu chitim. Don't do it for wheat. Chitim. Yizrenu seorim. So, if you accepted it for barley, you can't plant wheat. If you did it for wheat, you can plant barley. Rashbag says no. Tevuah, right? Lo yizrenu kitnit. Kitnit yizrenu tevuah. The same thing with the tevuah. Tevuah and kitnit, what's easier? So he says, Tivua, you shouldn't plant the kidney, but the kidney weakens the land more. Kidney, you can plant tivua. Rashbag will say. So in both cases, did you realize Rashbag says it's a sur, even though you're going like downwards, meaning that even though you're doing something better for the field, it's still a sur. According to Rashbag, you have to stick to the plans. You're not allowed to change. According to the other one, no. You have to stick to the plans. If you could do lower, you could always do that. Says the Gemara. Amar Rav Chasta, says Rav Chasta. My tamad Rashbag, what's the reasoning of Rashbag? It says the pasuk, Sherit Yisrael lo yasu avla. Sherit Yisrael, they are not going to do an iniquity. Velo yidabru chazav, they're not going to speak falsehood. And they're not going to come and speak trickery. And therefore, he's not allowed to change from his words. Meaning, if I come and I tell you I'm going to plant wheat, I cannot plant barley. Right? I'm going the other way around. Sorry. Right? Because basically what happens is I can't change my words. That's what he's saying. I can't change my words. I'm a man of my words. So we're going to ask a question. Mikbat purim lepurim. If you're a gabay tzedakah and you're going to collect money for tzorchei seudah of purim, right? It goes for purim. But you're not going to be medakdek, which means, right, in order to come and take the rest of the money and use it for something else. Now, the ani cannot come and start taking shoelaces for his shoes unless he's going to be matneh with Mamad and Sha'id. These are the words of Rabbi Yaakov, right? That he said, the name of Rabbi Min. Rashbag, when he says, comes and he says, he's Mekel. So the question is, 1 second, why is it by Purim, I could change, he's Mekel, I could change from one tzedakah to another tzedakah, and there's no problem. And here, I'm not allowed to. Why? Because I have to be trustworthy with my words. Well, you're not trustworthy with the tzedakah. So why are you doing that? So Amar Abaye comes and he says, we're going to get to the two dots. Amar Abaye says, Tamad Rashbag, the reasoning of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is, Kedemor, the Amar more says, somebody that wants that it should be without anything, you should do 1 year of chitim and 1 year of seorim. Or shata sheti, the shata erev. 1 year, the sheti, right? Let's say the diagonal and 1 the vertical, right? Why? Because by that, you're going to be machish, the koach of the sadeh. So since it could be that in the year that you're going to plant the chitim, it comes out that if you're going to plant now the seorim, it's going to become weakened. And that's why Rashbag said it's going to be a sur in any case, because of that. He's only going to say if it's only if you didn't do plowing. But if you first plowed and then you plow again, let lamba. There's no problem. Why? Because when you're going to come, there's no difference in the land. So when you come and you're going to plow, then plant and plow again, there's no problem whatsoever. Why? Because you're not coming and making it weaker, and therefore there's not going to be a problem.